So here's a wild thought for you. Imagine an industry where business is absolutely booming, record-breaking volumes, packages flying everywhere, but the companies are actually going broke? How on earth is that possible? Well, that's exactly what's happening in South Korea's logistics industry right now. It's a perfect storm, and we're going to dive right into it. It really all starts with a question you've probably asked yourself. You're scrolling online, you see some gadget for $5 on AliExpress or Temu, and it says free shipping from the other side of the world. It feels like some kind of magic trick, right? But behind that magic is a really brutal economic reality, and it's hitting South Korea like a tidal wave. And just how big is this wave? Well, check this out. 10.23 million. That's not a city's population. That's the number of people in South Korea using AliExpress every single month. That is an insane number of packages, all driven by these rock-bottom prices. This flood of Chinese e-commerce, it's the first major force creating our perfect storm. Now, to really get what's going on, you have to zoom out and look at the global stage, because Korea's logistics industry is basically caught in a vice, and it's being squeezed from two sides, by its old ally, the USA, and its biggest neighbor, China. You know, funny enough, when the US-China trade war first kicked off, it looked like a golden opportunity for Korea. The thinking was, hey, if the US puts tariffs on Chinese stuff, then Korean products will look cheaper and sell more. People called it the trade diversion effect, and for a little while, it seemed like Korea had the winning ticket. Yeah, that didn't last long. That whole benefit has pretty much evaporated, and now the situation has totally flipped. The US is putting new tariffs directly on major Korean exports. We're talking steel, aluminum, cars. And here's the kicker. Since Korea sells a ton of parts to China for products that then get shipped to the US, they get hit by those tariffs too. It's the definition of being caught in the middle. And if you want to see what that squeeze looks like in cold, hard cash, this is just stunning. Back in 2017, South Korea had a massive $44 billion trade surplus with China. Fast forward to today, and it's a $6.4 billion deficit. That is an absolutely incredible reversal, and it's all driven by this flood of cheap Chinese goods. And that brings us right back to those super cheap packages. All that stuff from AliExpress and Temu has to be delivered by somebody. So for the big Korean delivery companies, it looks like a business boom, right? More packages than ever. But the cost is a ferocious price war that is gutting the entire industry from the inside.
So you've got these huge external pressures from the US and China. But what they're really doing is pouring gasoline on a fire that was already burning inside Korea's own delivery market. It's a vicious cycle of cutthroat competition. This is the core of the whole paradox. Volume is way, way up, but profits are way down. Think about that. You're working harder than ever, moving more boxes than you can count, but you're actually making less money on each one. It's because the market has become a battle to the bottom, where the only weapon is price.
And let's look at the fighters in this arena. You've got the heavyweight champion, CJ Logistics, the old-school giant with all the infrastructure. Then you have the disruptive challenger, Coupang, who changed the game with their all-in-one rocket delivery. And when these two Goliaths go to war, who gets crushed? It's all the smaller, third-party logistics companies. They're the real victims here. Okay, so if you're in this industry, how do you possibly survive? You can't just keep cutting prices. That's a race to bankruptcy. The only way out is to stop playing that game and start a new one. You have to evolve. The fight has to shift from being the cheapest to being the smartest, and that means technology. The industry is moving past just being the guys with the trucks, which is what we call 3PL. The future is 4PL and 5PL. Think of a 4PL as the strategic brain. They don't own the trucks, they manage the entire supply chain for a company. And a 5PL, that's the brain powered by a supercomputer, using AI and big data to run these incredibly complex e-commerce networks. The competition is moving from muscle to mind. And you can see this is just a natural progression. Long ago, companies did it all themselves. Then they started hiring trucking companies. Right now, most of the industry is at step 3, outsourcing the whole operation. But the ones who are going to survive and thrive, they're making the leap to step 4, becoming fully integrated tech-driven partners. And that technology is what makes it all possible. The results you get from automation are just mind-boggling. Look at CJ Logistics. They cut their labor needs by 40%, but pushed 150% more packages through. Hanjin got their sorting accuracy to nearly perfect, and JITA saw a 10-fold performance boost. This isn't just a small improvement, it's a total game changer. This quote from CJ Logistics says it all.
Really. Investing in this kind of smart technology isn't just another business expense. In this kind of market, it's your survival strategy. It is literally how you escape that volume up, profit down trap.
Okay, so the answer is robots and AI, right? Problem solved. Well, not so fast. That's only half the solution. The other half is way more surprising. In an industry being totally transformed by automation, the key might actually be people, just not in the way you might think.
To get why, you need to understand this number, 4 years. That's how long South Korea's population has been actively shrinking. For 4 years in a row, the country is facing a massive demographic crisis, which means a critical shortage of workers, especially in tough jobs like logistics. You can build the fanciest automated warehouse in the world, but you still need skilled people to run it, maintain it, and improve it. And this is where the government steps in with a really clever policy, the E-74 visa. It targets skilled foreign workers who are already in the country and gives them a pathway to stay long-term. But here's the single most important part, the real game changer. It allows them to bring their families over. That one rule changes everything. Because now, this isn't just a work permit, it's a settlement strategy. This is a plan to solve two huge problems at once. You give the logistics industry the stable, skilled workforce it desperately needs, and you start to revitalize parts of the country where the population is shrinking. You're not just importing labor anymore, you're inviting new people to build a future.
So it all comes down to this. You've got an entire industry caught in a perfect storm, squeezed by global giants from the outside and being torn apart by price wars on the inside. The solutions on the table are straight out of science fiction, futuristic robots and a bold new immigration policy. Can robots and new residents actually be the answer? That is the multi-billion-dollar question that an entire nation is trying to answer right now.